Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om 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 Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody. Pranam, pranam. So tomorrow is beloved Papa's 138th Jayanti Day. It is because of the transformation of an individual to a saint, from Vittal Rao to Swami Ramdas, that Anandashram came into existence, and we are all here now. So tomorrow is the day when we remember him with all gratitude, with all reverence, for all that he had provided to us, to know the real purpose of our life, and to evaluate as to where we stand now. A deeper study into his early life probably it might help us to know him, to know the sadhana, to know the severity or tapas he had, which will definitely help us to make amends to our own spiritual disciplines. We will not be able to follow anybody. We have to draw out a method for ourselves, suiting to our equipments, our taste, our inclinations, our priorities, our limitations. But at the same time, the life and mission of saints, when we go through it again and again and again, it might help us to throw out our own method. That is the purpose, that we should know very well. Not that to imitate or emulate what Papa did. It is absolutely not possible. What had happened to him at the 38th year, and we are all, almost majority of us are past 60 or 70. And if we try to ask ourselves, what can we do at this stage? It will be difficult to get an answer. So everyone should know that each one has to draw up a method for himself or herself. And association with the saints and the life and mission of saints will definitely help us towards this. This should be very clear in our mind. Papa's chanting of Ram Nam and our chanting of Ram Nam, it's a world of difference. We now understand, what all he had done prior to taking up the chanting. what is to be complemented with the chanting. Otherwise, we will be doing in our own way. Whenever we come to ashram, we join for Ram Ram Nam. And there is absolutely no change in our lifestyle. We get some joy while chanting Ram Nam, no doubt. Then we go back to our own life. On some occasions, we join again together and then take up Ram Nam chanting or something like that. That has been the system we have been having. Not very deep. The Ram Nam chanting did give us some joy, no doubt. That is why we are repeating it. But nowadays we are thinking, why is it not helping us to move towards Him? When this intensity was slowly welling up, things are facilitated in such a way that we try to know more about Papa's early life. So we have been reading some portions from Passage to Divinity, authored by Chandrasekhar Rao, Papa's Purvashram son-in-law, where he throws more light. Yesterday we were reading, you remember? It all started, we can put it in this way, that when his Purvashram wife was seriously sick, he prayed. Deep. As he knelt down before the picture of Sri Pandurangashram Swamiji of Chitrapur Mutt hanging in his room, burning tears flowed down from his cheeks. As he prayed, a sort of calm and peace stole over his agonized mind, and from that moment onwards, Rukmabai began to improve rapidly. This experience wrought an important change in Vittal Rao's attitude towards life. A sort of dispassion for earthly objects seized him. He would talk to everybody only of God and of the teachings of saints, and would freely pour out his heart, especially to his elder brother Sitaram Rao, who was now the chief sanitary inspector of Mangalore. So the first, we can say, first experience God gave him, And from there we moved. Though there were so many trying moments in his life, his motto appeared to be to live in the living present and let God take care of the morrow. We also saw that while Rukmabai she was an Orthodox, she had a totally different approach to spirituality and religion, more on traditional methods, rituals, whereas Papa was not at all. Going along with it, that he refused to subscribe or submit to the superannuated notions of religion and religious life, and the abounding bigotry and superstition with which they were surrounded. He was severe and outspoken in his condemnation of orthodoxy, especially ritualism, and that he had little practice with the pampered priestly order who fostered it. So that gave us the idea, more progressive. That means He was not at all bound by any traditional approach. Then the next stage came that he was regularly attending a bhajan in his brother's house, and where, unlike us, we can say, we attend a bhajan, we say it was thrilling, but what is the take-home message? We may not be having any take-home message. It was purely, that experience was purely limited to that particular period, never leaving a deep dent in our mind. But in his case, he would lose himself in a blissful state of self-forgetfulness. So we understand now the purpose of bhajan is that, to attune ourselves with the theme of the bhajan, and we raise ourselves from the individual level to a higher level. Simultaneously, he took up reading of books of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Swami Vivekananda, Swami Tirtha, Yoga Vasishta, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Then we found that slowly the chanting of name, it brought him great mental peace and joy. He kept up a ceaseless flow of the blessed name on his tongue, and its humming sound would automatically issue from his lips even when he was at work or walking on the street. Though he had to face severe setbacks in his professional field, severe means severest. He was running a small establishment, living establishment, dying establishment. And the liabilities were mounting up like anything, and he had absolutely no reserve fund or no capital. So he was passing through the severest test. At that time, one friend came forward and offered to clear off all the liabilities and to add some more looms. And he insisted that he would take care of the finance and establishment's administrative part, and Papa should take charge of the technical side. So, for all practical purposes, he has been relieved of the burden that he was having. But still, Papa was not at all feeling comfortable with that. Though he felt some relief, he knew it was moving fast in the direction of God. The Lord's name was continuously working on his tongue. And self-denial followed. Self-denial which nobody can even imagine. He gave up the night meal, the petty comforts of his body. His sadhana evoked remonstrances all around. He started spending the greater part of the nights in the repetition of the name. Rukmabai became thoroughly frightened and strange, and the strange turn her husband's life was rapidly taking now. He felt strongly that he was set upon his path by the great highest power which he was struggling to attain and realize. So from this time onwards, God was making it clear that he has taken over Papa, and Papa was becoming aware of the guidance every now and then. And at that time, it has been mentioned in this book, apart from self-denial, he would go to the Kadri cave at 4 o'clock in the morning. At that time, it was all dense forest. And then he would take a dip in the tank there, and then he would wash his clothes and then come back and sit on one of the rocks. And he took the inward journey for nearly 3 hours. He was taking it, not he took to. This was a regular practice. He bathed in the cold water. A bare mat sufficed for lying down, but he kept himself awake the whole night in repetition of the mantra. It may be that Vittalrao was entirely without sleep for 6 months consecutively, and the Lord's name never left his lips even for a moment. There was nobody to encourage him in this one, in this pursuit. All his family members, they were trying their level best to make him know that that is not the way he should do. But he was very firm, he was very clear. And Papa, in Papa's mind, God gave him the deep desire to throw himself entirely at God's feet. It was a momentous time when he was to cut himself away from all the moorings that held him to this world and set his tiny boat sailing in the infinite expanse of the divine ocean, seemingly without a rudder, chart, or a compass, daring the very storms and tempests that would ceaselessly assail him and try to crush his spirit. But Vittalrao was fortified in the knowledge that it was the divine pilot who was guiding his little boat into the unknown and uncharted seas. Where then was the need for any fear or were any need for anxiety? And then slowly it led. He knew what is to be erased. God made him realize what is to be realized is to get rid of the me and mine. So he himself prayed, all, O Ram, is thine and all things are done by thee alone. Thy slave's one prayer to thee is to take him under thy complete guidance and remove the I-ness in him. Up to that, yesterday the prayer was heard. Ramdas' heart heaved a heavy sigh. A hazy desire to renounce all and wander in the garb of a mendicant in quest of Ram now wafted over his mind. Then he wrote 2 letters. Vittalrao boarded the Madras mail, as it was then called, at 5 a.m., got down at Erode's junction in the evening. The only worldly wealth that he now carried with him was rupees 25, in addition to a couple of clothes dyed in red ochre and a few books including the Bhagavad Gita, the Light of Asia, and the New Testament. So the mantram was there always on his lips. He had no clue, he was not at all worried. His surrender to God had become complete. So he was never feeling desperate as to what should be done next moment. That finally led him to Trichy, and from Trichy to what is that place? Srirangam. And then there he adopted the order of sannyas. Rest of the things we used to read from In Quest of God. Hari Om. Came just now. Reverting back to Papa's own words about the early life. It was at that time he used to attend the evening bhajans in his elder brother's house. He was drawn there because the brother was holding regular bhajans in his house. Though Ramdas attended the bhajans, he was not taking part in singing. He was sitting and simply gazing at the image, listening to the sound. It was at this time he started repeating Ramnam. He was then beset with worldly worries, which virtually drove him towards God. That often happens as worldly difficulties and anxieties create in you a sense of detachment, that is Vairagya. Abhyasa and Vairagya should always go together. Practice and dispassion, no? Abhyasa means practice. We should be regular in our practice. And if the Vairagya is not sufficiently there, then the mind space will be occupied by all other creature comforts. So Vairagya gives you a push towards God. God gave Ramdas first bhakti, and as a result of it, Vairagya came. His longing for God became more and more intense, with the result that the attraction for worldly objects disappeared gradually, until at last the bond was completely cut, and he was solely absorbed in God thought. When he was repeating Ramnam, he found strange peace. While repeating the name, he was not concentrating on any form, within or without. He was only concentrating on the music of the name. He was very punctual in attending the evening bhajans. He also explains more about it. But after a few days, Ramdas had to shift to a place far away from his brother's house. So he was denied the privilege of attending the evening bhajans. Thenceforward, Ramnam took deep root in him. It was on his lips constantly, and the struggle to attain the goal grew intense. Although he had now no taste for worldly things, because of the long-standing habit of thinking of worldly objects, the mind used to be dragged to them, and Ramdas felt utterly miserable on those occasions. This is the experience of all devotees. When the mind is drawn away from their beloved Lord to worldly objects, Naturally, they would feel miserable like a fish thrown out of water. Ramdas's mind was craving for God and God alone. So, whenever the mind was dragged down, he was in intense agony. This state is called viraha. Viraha comes only after the first contact with him. When your mind is turned away from turned away from the thought of God and made to dwell on the objects of the senses, you keenly feel the separation caused by loss of touch with your dearest. This sort of virahatapa used to seize Ramdas off and on. When he was passing through this state, Ramdas's father by his old birth, who later became his guru, heard about his condition, got alarmed. Many disturbing reports reached him that Ramdas was behaving strangely and was neglecting worldly duties. They considered that it was all due to some derangement of his brain, which could be cured by medicine. Such was the impression people had of him, and that was conveyed to his father, who was then in Udupi. As soon as he heard this news about his son, he ran down to see him. He looked at Ramdas and understood him. Ramdas was seen repeating Ramnam always. He had lost all interest in the world. The father asked, "Son, what are you doing?" Ramdas replied, this reply is very important for all of us to remember. Ramdas replied, "God is making me repeat Ramnam." He looked happier and addressed, "Instead of your repeating only Ram, Ram, I will give you a mantra which I received from a sannyasi. Just take it." He called Ramdas inside the house, initiated him with the mantra, "Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram," and said, "Son, if you repeat this mantra constantly, you will attain eternal happiness." To the mantra given, there was no prefix of Om at that time. Later on, Ramdas added Om because he was very much attached to Swami Ramtirtha, whose mantra was Om. He thought that Ramtirtha wanted him to add Om to the Ram Mantram. Om, the primary nada or original sound, has come from God, the impersonal infinite reality. Through Om, the whole universe has come into existence. Therefore, Om, made up of the three sounds A, U, M, correspondingly signifies the three kalas, three avasthas, three gunas. We are to take our mind to the beginning of all things and merge ourselves in the Nirguna Brahman, and then only shall we realize that the whole universe is filled with the infinite truth and is the manifestation of that. Something for all of us to note, because we used to chant Om, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Probably the clarity would not have come to us because the day we came here, we started hearing Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. And we started chanting. We would not have applied our mind on that. And now that, he facilitated us to know more about it, what prompted him to add this Om? He has given this explanation, no? And also to ultimately take us to the Nirguna Avastha. Because only in the Nirguna Avastha it can become global. Otherwise it will be limited to that form, about which Papa also says later, Saguna Darshan will appear and disappear. And when it disappears, we shall be utterly unhappy. But universal vision is not like that. Therein we feel the presence of God always, every moment of our life and everywhere. We look upon all the forms, beings and creatures in the universe as the very expression or manifestation of God. In this state we enjoy ineffable peace and bliss. Ramdas's aim was to attain this vision. After reading the Gita, his craving was not at all for Saguna Darshan. He wanted only the grandest vision by which He could behold the whole universe as his form. It was when his desire was taking root in his heart that the Lord appeared to him in the form of Krishna. And Papa also explains about the universal vision, step by step. So he says, Ramdas's prayer to the Lord to grant him the universal vision was fulfilled after a short while when he was in the cave on the Arunachala hill, Tiruvannamalai. It came about like this. Soon after he had the Saguna Darshan, he had to leave Mangalore and go wandering from place to place. In the course of it, God, in his own mysterious way, took him to Tiruvannamalai. Ramdas's state in those days was like that of a child, waiting always for the mother's guidance. He had absolutely no sankalpas or plans of his own. So when a sadhu asked him to accompany him to Tiruvannamalai, he simply followed the sadhu. The latter took him to Ramana Maharshi. The very sight of Maharshi left an indelible impression on Ramdas. The darshan prepared Ramdas for the universal vision. The Maharshi stands for Nirguna Brahman. So he poured into Ramdas the necessary power to attain this vision. See how beautifully these things are arranged by God in his mysterious ways. After the darshan of the Maharshi, Ramdas remained in the cave in the Arunachala hill. During his stay in the cave, he had absolutely no sleep, and for food he used to take only a small quantity of boiled rice, which he prepared out of the raw rice he got as alms. He was chanting the Rama mantra day and night. After 20 days' stay in the cave, one morning his eyes were filled with a strange light, and he could realize the presence of the divine everywhere. This new vision gave him such waves of ecstasy that he started running about here and there, embracing the trees and rocks, shouting, "This is my Ram, this is my Ram, this is my Ram." He could not resist the ecstasy. This was his first vision of the universal being. In all his wanderings, God from within became his sole guide. Even at the beginning, Ramdas knew that he was there within. He means capital. Ram was there within. But he used to get Ramdas's guidance from outside also, for God was all in all for him. From the early days, Ramdas was thinking of God in these terms. He used to look upon him as infinite love, eternal bliss, and all-pervading light. Love, light, and bliss. God has primarily three qualities: Sat, Chit, Ananda. Now God in his own way made Ramdas realize each one of these aspects separately, keeping one aspect in the forefront for the time, while the other two were kept in the background. When his body consciousness was lost, he realized the impersonal aspect of God. This experience came to him when he was in the Kadri cave. After 1 year of wandering life, he was then also strictly on diet and had hardly any sleep. Until his return to Mangalore, he did not know what meditation or samadhi was. He had no occasion to sit with eyes closed and do meditation. He was only chanting Ramnam continuously for all the 24 hours. When he came to the Panchapandava cave at Kadri, after 1 year's wandering life, one night, God from within prompted him to sit up for meditation. Generally, people say that when they sit for meditation with eyes shut, their minds wander in 1,001 ways. For Ramdas, there was no such struggle at all in concentration. He sat with eyes shut and he was lost at once within himself. The body consciousness having entirely left him, he remained oblivious of everything for 3 hours in a state of ecstasy. Later on, this state was coming to him during bhajan time. This experience seemed to have established him in the realization of God as the all-pervading, static spirit, the absolute bliss and peace, Sat and Ananda aspects. Chit or eternal consciousness is more dominant on the plane of manifestation. So God is truly existence, power and bliss. Ramdas had already a glimpse of him as the universe, and now that vision became established. Thereafter, he was seeing all objects as if he was not seeing them. This experience is difficult to express. Seeing and not seeing, doing and not doing. See Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, you are asked to see action in inaction, and vice versa. Arjuna was asked to fight in the battlefield with this consciousness. Now you do all actions as if you have not done anything at all. You are free from the fetters of action. So like that we can keep on reading. So the purpose of bringing this is, tomorrow is our Papa's Jayanti day. This offers us an opportunity to look back to our own life, to what extent we have been able to derive the benefit of Papa's company. No? The moment we start hearing about Papa, the moment we start Papa's photos, the moment we start doing Ramnam chanting, the moment we start hearing of his works, his wisdom teachings, we feel his company. But after that, what happens to us? Even while staying in the ashram, we find we are back to our sense of individuality only. The individuality has been dominant in us. And just now we came to know from Papa's prayer that the greatest roadblock is I-ness, me and I. So Papa is now gently reminding us that we may be doing all these practices, but the purpose of which is to erase the dominance of me and mine in our life. So when we say that we are celebrating 138th Jayanti of beloved Papa, it must have some effect in us. So that is why he prompted us to go through his earlier life, his methodology, the self-denial, the consistent practice, and his commitment to the goal, subservience to the higher power, absolutely surrendering himself to him, and then, like a child, he led the life. So we are now trying to go through it again and again and again, so that tomorrow when the Jayanti day comes, our prayer should be, tomorrow again we will be going to the bhajan hall, the inner chamber where Papa was staying in the olden days of this ashram. That is our sanctum sanctorum now. There, when we offer our flowers at his holy feet, let all our hearts pray for something of what he has achieved. Though we may not deserve, still we as children, we have got every right to pray to him. If it is not fit to receive, make it fit to receive. That sort of a prayer should well up. We know it is full of factors which are not conducive for bringing God thought there. But you should take up the initiative of cleansing my mind and giving a space for Godward thinking. At least some of this you should give us. This prayer should well up in our heart. Otherwise, the purpose of observing or celebrating important days connected with the lives of saints, it becomes a routine without leaving any deep impress on the minds of devotees or aspirants. So probably that is why Papa made us to go through the earlier life. So what all preparations God made him to accept, and how gradually he was molded and finally gave him the push from inside to take the final plunge. So with a heart full of such feelings, we will, yes, mentally celebrate the 138th Jayanti of Beloved Papa tomorrow. Before that, we are preparing ourselves. It should not become an ordinary day for us. Many of us, or most of us, are getting old. Time is running out. Something has to be done. Some crash course, they say, something should be done. We may not be able to follow what all he did, but we may be definitely able to follow something of what he did in a miniature form. So that he, with the facilities he has been offering us, to give a taste to his early life, we will be able to silently carry out so many things without making anybody know of it. Silently. The transformation should take place silently in us. Transformation means getting rid of the me and mine. What all areas we can do, we will try. The ashram has provided a congenial atmosphere towards this. Here, because our usual household or professional or social compulsions are not there. We are free from all those things. We are free from our routine thinking also. So here we can try to practice something earnestly, sincerely, and for which we needed some clarity. He has provided the clarity also. So these are all the things which we wanted to share. And before we close, we thought some words of Papa. Parabhakti is bhakti that comes to you after the realization of God in his nirguna aspect. The realization that you are the Atman, which is nirguna nirvikar, which provides the entire universe. As the nirguna tattva, he is the substratum for the manifestation. Ramdas was made to go along this path, leading to the vision of the world as the manifestation of the Lord. It is said that Shiva is lying down motionless, and on his chest Kali or Shakti is dancing. This is the Leela of Shiva, who is, and Shakti, the dynamic force having Shiva, who is static as the base, is playing the Leela of creation, preservation, and destruction of all the worlds. In fact, the universe itself is she. We speak in terms of male and female in regard to living creatures in the world, but in truth there is not such a thing. It is all the manifestation of Prakriti or Shakti, and there is only one Purusha, the static, calm, and silent Shiva, who is the ground and support for this manifestation. Ramdas can only place before you his own experience with regard to God realization. He feels one with God, still he is separate from him. God is the mother, Ramdas is the child. He is in constant communion with him, with God, and enjoys supreme bliss. This relationship is based upon his realization of oneness with God. It is based on jnana itself. Jnana is a state of knowledge or knowledge itself, by which you do not see any difference between yourself and God. You feel identical with him. That is, you know that there is only one truth, no duality all, no duality. All is he, all is he. There is only one Brahman whom we call variously as Purusha, Shiva, Vishnu, Brahman. All refer to the same divine. Again, he is also Prakriti, Shakti, or Maya. God that we have to realize is not an object for argument. By argument, we will not be able to understand him. He is beyond all reasoning. Ramdas has in his yesterday's talk given a summary of the evolution he was made to pass through before he was brought to the present state of being one with God and at the same time remaining separate from him as his servant and child, looking upon him as his master and mother. Briefly, it is like this. In the first place, God gave him an intense longing to realize him, and in order to progress on the path, he was given the Rama mantra. Thus, he was repeating constantly in order to purify his mind and prepare himself to get God's vision. This longing created in him a dispassion toward the things of the world, until at last his mind was completely absorbed in God thought, so much so that he as an individual soul ceased to exist and was aware of only the cosmic soul, God, the nameless, formless truth. But after giving him this experience, God led Ramdas forward. So far, he had looked upon the universe as a mere shadow. He could as well say that the world did not then exist for him. He had neither attraction nor repulsion for the world. Then the experience came to him, in which he beheld the whole universe as the manifestation of God. Now the world as world did not exist, but it existed for him as God himself. This is the state achieved through Parabhakti. Anybody would like to share any thoughts on what all Papa provided us to hear?
In Kadri Hills, Papa just was not knowing as to what meditation is in the Nigla. Kadri Hills, then he started meditating in the Nigla. But while wandering, he was also doing meditation with Ramnam in mind.
We should know from what we have read so far that meditation has got a different meaning. Meditation as we understand, closing our eyes, trying to still the thoughts, all those things that came after his wandering. But even in Inquest of God, even in the first chapter, He said he was meditating on God. There, Papa elsewhere had also clarified, by meditation probably he meant only contemplation of the attributes, deeply thinking about the attributes. He is the nameless, formless, beginningless, endless, eternal, Nirguna, Nirakara, Nirvikara, Shashvata, Ananda Swarup. So the moment we as devotees start hearing these words, suppose we also start dwelling upon it, trying to understand what exactly it stands for, then probably we can say that is also a part of meditation.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Yes.
Pranam.
Pranam.
Swamiji, me and mine, is me and mine same as what is also called ego?
Yeah, quite right. A relation, in the first chapter itself, he has given he has slightly stretched it. Relations and possessions, me and mine. I am only related or connected to a small circle of people. My so and so, my. And mine means my possessions. So when he says that the me and mine, it should ultimately free us from clinging on to a smaller circle, narrow circle, number one. Number two, free from the sense of possession. We may have to possess many things in our journey of life, but there the definition changes. We possess as long as somebody does not claim. So we treat it as a trustee. Whenever somebody claims, then happily we should be able to give. Then we are not bound by the possession. So me, not only I am related to so-and-so, 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 I am also interrelated, interconnected with the entire universe. Because whatever I use, whatever that helps me as a creature comfort, has been given by unknown people. Everything that I use is a gift of the society or Mother Nature. So naturally, how can I limit myself to a small circle? I owe everything to His creation. Right from when we take the brush, the toothbrush, or the paste, or the soap, it was not brought by us. It was not authored by us, produced by us. So like that, each and every creature comfort that makes our life comfortable is a gift of society. Prior to our coming here, it was made ready for us. So are we to limit ourselves only to the known people? Or to the people who have blessed us with? Even the very language, which is a strong medium of communication, it's a gift of somebody. So like that, we try to go beyond the boundaries set by us of me and mine. That means we owe everything. When we came to this world, we did not bring anything. And everything is made ready here, we are enjoying it. Without caring to know. Only thing is we feel, we have paid the money or somebody has paid the money. But money cannot give us the experience, Produce should be there. So suppose we start thinking on those lines, probably to a very great extent we will be freed from me and mine.
Right.
Think about it. Anything else?
So nothing belongs to me because we came empty-handed.
Correct.
So, right.
Yeah, that is very, nothing belongs to me.
Nothing belongs to me. Even the body.
Papa's own words, he says, Thou art all in all. Thou art the sole protector in the world. Men are deluded when they declare, I do this, I do that. This is mine, that is mine. All, O Ram, is thine, and all things are done by thee alone. All, O Ram, is thine, and all things are done by thee alone.
So then,
Thy slave's one prayer to thee is to take him under thy complete guidance and remove the I-ness in him. In the second chapter, he brings it out beautifully.
Yes, sir. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.
Thank you, Swamiji, for clear explanation for me and mine.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So this, yes?
Yes.
The experience which Babaji was experiencing, and one very simple word, it is that you are in me. Ram is there, and
Yeah.
he is Ram is everywhere.
Yeah.
That experience is projecting everywhere.
Quite right.
Sustained faith. Sustained partition.
Sustained faith.
Sustained. How? That's a continuous tense.
We normally we are influenced by faith. Suppose our elders say, or somebody whom we respect, when they say something, we believe in their words. And especially on spiritual matters, when we are guided by so many evolved souls, we have faith, we have reverence. But whenever we transact with the world outside, this faith, not that we want to violate the injunctions, but we compromise unknowingly. Then at that time, are we reminded of that faith? Oh, I shouldn't have talked like that. I shouldn't have done like that. I shouldn't have expressed like that. This we feel. Not that we believe in Papa's words. But if it is sustained faith, at the time of my slipping, it will remind, hey, stop. That means there is a commitment toward that faith. It is not merely a faith that is so much grounded in us, which will not permit us to go off the line. Whenever we are likely to cross the Lakshman Rekha, immediately that will come and stop us. Not only tell us, stop us. However attractive the other side may be. In Papa's case, we can see, the establishment was sinking, The liabilities were up. There was no assets at all. And only providence can help from a total disaster. At that time, one friend comes forward and tells Papa that I will take over. Even at that time, what did he do? He said, no, don't put your money, you will also lose it. But that friend said, I don't mind. He couldn't dissuade the other friend. So he came forward, cleared the liabilities. So even at that time, Papa did not want to cash the opportunity, in our language. He was steadfast in. And the result is that because of his sustained faith, he was not drawn back again to the field. You and I would have compromised. We would have said, God helped us from this to come out of this through some friend. Then we would have carried on. But in his case, no. So then he says fixed resolve, sustained faith, optimistic outlook. He meant it was rooted, well rooted. Faith in God, faith in Ram, that was well rooted.
Swamiji, it means it will require
reinforcing every now and then. Not only in times of crisis. Whenever there is a pause moment in our life, instead of thinking about something else, we should fill our mind with his thought. In other words, when we chant Ram Nam during our leisure hours, this Ram Nam chanting should enable us to make us more and more firm in our commitment towards him. That he is all in all. He has given me an opportunity to feel that I am an individual. Out of his grace, he has given us a freedom to feel as an individual. So I will not misuse that freedom. That freedom will be used only to serve him, to pay back to him. No? How do I do that? This must be our thought. Though he is all in all, because of his generosity, he gave us a sense of freedom by which we all feel that we are individuals. And we are capable of this, we are capable of that. It is all right. But at the same time, we should know as devotees, as spiritual aspirants, it is a gift given to us. And how do we pay back for the gift? To remember him in gratitude and to offer back everything to him. Think about it, then it becomes very, very clear. Lot of manana is necessary, churning of the mind. Because if there is any small hole, the me and mind will somehow enter into it and overpower us, even without our knowing. When outer circumstances, half a dozen people come and say, you have done this, you have done that, if you have not done, I would have been, so many things. At that time, we should be firm. God is testing us.
Yes.
If we just are carried away, finished. And from that fall, it will take a lot of time for us to rise. So either we become deaf, during that time, or become indifferent, or to root out, or to feel that he is testing us. And this is what Papa did. Throughout the inquest narration, we find in Inquest of God, umpteen number of times he repeats the word testing.
Hello, Swamiji.
Yes.
Papa was quite indifferent to the business, the way it was showing loss, because Papa was fully aware that the real ownership lies with God and he is not the owner.
Yeah. Somehow we have to keep on. Not because we are just parrot-like repeating. We are churning our mind to find out. That is why in one of his letters he said, go to the source of everything, not only you and all the world. That would be one of the best methods by which we come to know that we are nothing and he is everything. The origin of you and the world. Anything and everything we try to go to the source, mentally. Then we'll come to know that it's a gift of him through his own creation. So even if somebody says something, we will not accept it mentally. Very good. So with such a heart full of gratitude and reverence, we will celebrate mentally the 138th Jayanti of Papa tomorrow. Sufficient mental preparation is necessary. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om.